Good morning to our wonderful champion students, our champion teachers, and our two outstanding superstars on the mortgage lending side, Cindy Smith, Michael Foley. So good to see you this morning. I am so very happy for all of our students that are interested in how to be a loan officer, or maybe they're in the real estate classes right now and they have a spouse, significant other that might want to be a loan officer, because today we get to talk about what it's like day in the life of being a mortgage broker, a mortgage loan officer, an RMLO. And we have two outstanding, longtime, wonderful people that are going to tell you what it's like when they get up in the morning until they go to bed at night, and how they've managed to be in this business for such a long time and be as successful as they are. But before we start, I just always like to say thank you for your business to all of our students. And I know that you're happy to be in class, live broadcast right now. Maybe you're down the hall in one of our traditional classrooms, because we are open for business now in our classrooms. We're so happy about that. And as well, thank you to our career counselors, our managers, our teachers, and a shout out to Kimberly Didelowitz and Austin, our president of our company, as well as Kurt Noblock, vice president, as well as Debbie Blaze as vice president. They make me look good, and so do our managers and teachers, and I thank you for that. So I'm going to start right out by giving a very well-respected introduction to two great people. And the first one is Cindy Smith. And hello, Cindy Smith. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, Rita. Watching it rain.
Watching it rain in Houston, Texas. It is coming down for sure. I want our students to know, and by the way, we have 1,000 people plus watching today, as well as Facebook Live. And I'm so happy about that, because they're going to hear some really informative pieces of information. But I want you all to know that I've known Cindy for a very long time, and I am always just so impressed with the 30 years experience you have, and your reputation is so incredibly great. And all of these many years, we know that what Cindy Smith says she's going to do, she's going to follow through and do. Our students might want to know that you are the branch manager at Hometrust Mortgage in North Houston. They might also be very interested to know you were featured in Texas Monthly Magazine, and that's huge. You were also awarded a 5-star mortgage professional honor, as well as Best of Choice in Living Magazine as #1 mortgage lender in the region. And I know Cindy on a different level as well. Her entire family have gone through Champion School of Real Estate. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
On the real estate side, as well as on the mortgage lending side, I know Morgan, your daughter, is working, I want to say, with you. I could be wrong about that. I know she's in her own office, and but I do know that she's with Hometrust Mortgage. And what I'm going to also throw out to our readers, our listeners, we are about a month out of moving into our new north location, Kirkendall 99 Grand Parkway, and longtime builder, construction, outstanding person, Robert Smith, her husband with Smith Commercial, is doing the building on our Houston North two-story office building. And it's been a pleasure working with Robert. So what a fine family you have. And I'm so happy to have you here today.
Well, thank you.
And we have Michael Foley. Michael is actually, I hate to start out this way, Michael, but I have to. He is the husband of our Fort Worth manager, Betsy Foley. And it's such a pleasure having you here today, Michael Foley. And you have over 12 years experience. I know you're the president of Merit Mortgage in Fort Worth. And you are an ambassador for the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. I know you're going to talk a little bit more about marketing. And you were named the Affiliate of the Year for the Fort Worth Association of Realtors, which is a huge honor. I love it when Champion School of Real Estate gets those honors. And certainly it means you're doing a lot of great marketing. And you also are involved with Tree Pack and marketing of the Fort Worth Association of Realtors. And but you come from Arizona State University, where you had your BS in Business Administration. And I just want our students to know that as we go through our 50 minutes of conversation today, they can certainly identify with Cindy and Michael. The things they're going to tell you about who they are will allow you, as you're sitting there, to think, okay, well, I've always wanted to be a loan officer. I can identify with these people. And yet, truly, they want to be where you are. And what I love about two wonderful people like Michael and Cindy giving us their time is they are going to tell you their secrets to success, their tips to be successful. And that just comes from a true heart of kindness. And thanks to both of you for doing that. So I want our students to get out your iPad, your pen, your paper, whatever your tools are to take notes. And I'm going to jump right in and ask Cindy, at what point did you decide to go out on your own and be an entrepreneur? Was there a moment in time? How did it happen? Because that takes a lot of courage.
So, gosh, it was years ago. I started as a loan processor, was trained somewhat in underwriting, and there came a point where I had to make a decision. Did I want to stay basically in the operation side, or did I want to jump right out and chance it and go on commission, go into the scary world of, out there and cultivating your own business? But I had enough confidence with knowing I had the background and the know-how to get a loan through the system. I had a lot of encouragement from my husband, my self-employed husband. He's like, Cindy, just go for it. If it doesn't work out, you can always go back and, go back into the process and go back into the underwriting. So I took a chance and I never looked back. I mean, I just hit the ground running. And to top it off, it was in the early 80s when the oil industry was plummeting in Houston, and so many loan officers were crying and whining that they couldn't make any money, and I didn't know any different. So I just, I had, basically blinders on to any negativity going on around me, and I would suggest doing that. I mean, you just have to focus on the positive, and I just jumped right in and went with it, and it worked out.
Jumping in, leap of faith, and look where you are all these years later. And there's a lot to be said for going through down cycles. It really makes you confident that there may be a down cycle, and yet at the end of that, we're going to go right back up again. And I'm always thankful that I started Champion School of Real Estate, the same type of market in the 80s. Scary, scary, scary. But I think we were both so very young and naive. We just didn't know that it was a scary time.
Yeah,
Michael,
exactly.
Michael, what was your defining moment to go from, and tell us what your previous career was?
Well, you mean before mortgage? You want,
Yes.
well, so through college, I was in wedding catering, believe it or not. And I started off as a server. I wasn't any good at carrying a tray. So then I became a banquet captain so I could watch other people and manage and help run the event at the event. And then transitioned into being the director of operations. And so the company I worked for, we did 1,100 events a year. We would do
Wow.
anywhere from like 6 to 8 weddings a weekend. And so being in your 20s, that was a lot of responsibility for sure. So I think that really kind of helped me and groomed me to uh, be successful in mortgage. You're handling arguably the two biggest life events that somebody can go through, right? Getting married and purchasing a house. So, we, in real estate in general, everybody's, it's go, 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 and it's stressful. And you may, have a little bit of, adversity, like missing a closing. But as I said the other day, try dropping somebody's wedding cake on their wedding day and bouncing back from that. So
Did you
uh,
ever do that? Did you ever drop a
I
wedding
can't
cake
confirm
yourself?
or deny it, but it might have happened. Accidents happen, uh, and then you just come up with a backup plan. And so,
Well, people always wonder, how did Cindy and Michael get to where they are today? So I always like to give just a little background into how you started out. And because it's so very fresh on everyone's mind right now about COVID, the pandemic, and how it's changed our business, I'm going to jump right into the now subject of how has the pandemic changed your way of doing business? And has it made any changes to your business? Up, down, positive, negative. So, Michael, you want to hit that one first?
yeah, sure. It's been wild. Nobody really saw it coming. And I think for Merit being a broker, we had a pretty unique perspective on how lenders were reacting to the crisis. We have almost 20 plus lenders that we can originate through. So when COVID came out and all the lenders started pausing and putting in extra overlays and guidelines and restrictions to originations, it was pretty unique that we could sit back and see how each lender was reacting differently. And a lot of the bigger lenders, the nationwide lenders, were the ones that really kind of paused because they had the most exposure. They had the most clients. And when I say like restrictions, we saw things like credit score minimums be raised. We saw the ability to lock an interest rate in taken away up front. We had to wait until the loan was through underwriting and approved. We saw jumbo loans go away for a little bit. A lot of the non-QM or the outside the box loans for self-employed borrowers, things like that, those products went away. So for a minute there in March and April, it was scary. We didn't know how long it was going to last. We didn't know if it was going to keep getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And so it was certainly kind of, like I said, wild to watch.
So, Michael, understanding that we have a lot of newbies watching, in fact, the majority brand new people. So, when you say certain products were taken away by whom? And what is a jumbo loan? Can you give us
Yeah.
that information?
Yeah. So they're taken away by the lenders. So, lenders are going to lend money based on risk, right? So when you go through underwriting, you get approved based on the risk, meaning do you have good credit? Do you have bad credit? Are you putting more money down? Are you putting less money down? It takes a look at the whole profile, and you can get approved based on whether you meet those requirements and the underwriter approves it. Now, when lenders, said, hey, we used to be a minimum 620 FICO score, but now we're going to raise it up to 660 and we're not going to take anything less. That's their guideline. We call that an overlay. That's them putting in a little extra caution that, hey, we don't want to put our necks out there like we have been because of forbearance and some of these other things that are happening, people losing jobs, all the uncertainty in the market. So we're going to raise our credit minimum just because we want to make sure that our borrowers aren't going to default. So that's why they did those things.
Kind of lowers their risk.
Exactly. Yeah. And as far as a jumbo loan, so each county, I mean, I think we're all over Texas now, but in general, a jumbo loan is if you're borrowing more than the conforming loan limit, which is about 510,000. So if you're buying, you know, a $750,000 loan, $1 million house, you're going to be in the jumbo loan product. So the bigger the loan, obviously, if you default on a bigger loan, you know, it hurts the lender more. So a lot of them pause that money, along with the non-QM, which, like I said, are kind of those outside of the box type of loans, like bank statement loans or assets for income, things like that.
Very, very helpful, very interesting. So, Cindy Smith, how has it changed your business as well? I mean, literally people coming in to make loan app as well as available money. You've been in the business for such a long time. Give us your insight.
Well, I agree exactly with what Michael was saying. It was wild. It was a roller coaster. Every day was a different day as far as, I mean, you and we had been coasting along, rates had been great. And then, you know, along with just the COVID and the pandemic, I mean, everything changed overnight in our world. I mean, the credit scores were increased, as Michael said. The, you know, jumbo loans where we could have done 5% down, 10% down, those just went away immediately. And the forbearance issue that he touched on, that was a big issue because as soon as the government came out with that, that halted everything with the investors because the investors, they needed time to figure out how that was going to impact, you know, their servicing portfolios, because once a loan is made, it is sold on Wall Street. So even once it's sold, the investors still expect to be paid on that loan. So even though the borrower is not making payments, the servicer still has to pay the investor for that loan. So it's just a whole nother avenue of what goes on in our business. So when that happened, you know, it just put the halts on any type of high loan to values, any type of marginal credit scores. We saw it with the first time home buyer programs. Everything changed. So to me, what was the most challenging was to manage the borrower's expectations navigating through this, because not only were they dealing with the uncertainty of their life at that point, you know, and in trying to refinance or purchase a home, you know, they were relying on us to help them figure out what was going on. And we didn't really even know what was going on. So, you know, being a loan officer is yes, you have to know all the guidelines, but you also have to know how to really keep the borrowers positive and keep them going through this time and helping them navigate through the process, because everything was changing, especially on the self-employed borrowers. Lots of harsher criteria and underwriting to make sure that the income that we have averaged for the last 2 years is going to be consistently moving forward during the COVID world. So, you know, that was a lot of frustration, you know, helping them, you know, stay in the game, and we're going to get there, but you got to go through these, you know, new guidelines. So, you know, that was a challenge, but we got through it, and we're still getting through it. So
Very, very helpful. And as we're talking right now, I'm seeing different chat come through, and I just want our students to know, so far, every question I've seen, we're going to hit. But one that they are all interested in is, what is it like a day in the life of your life? From the time you get up in the morning to you go to bed at night, what is it like to be a loan officer? Michael, you want to hit it?
Sure. Yeah, I think Cindy can agree. It's certainly not boring. And especially not the last, you know, 4 to 6 months. But yeah, the hard part, I guess the challenge with a loan officer is always trying to work on your business and not getting stuck working in your business. When you get enough loans and you have a pipeline of clients, and you know, it's hard not to just sit and continue just to work your pipeline and make sure those loans get closed and refresh your email and make sure that this loan goes from, you know, submission to approved. And so you can get caught in that trap of kind of working your files where you should be prospecting. So as a loan originator, your job is always to go out there, hunt, find new business, build new relationships, always find the next deal, and trust that you have a team in place that's going to be working your pipeline and working your files and moving them along and closing them on time. So it took me a long time. I'm very, OCD. I like to, just jump in and do it myself. It took me a lot of time to relinquish control of my clients. Because everybody, I'm sure a lot of people are like this, like you think you could just do it better yourself. And so it's hard to turn over that control. But once you can do that, it allows you to go out and truly grow your business instead of just working in it day to day. So for me, I try to come in, I try and get everything that I can done. Like my emails cleared, I check with my processor. I have a quick 10, 15-minute meeting every morning. I need, a quick update on all my loans, what needs to be done that day. Can I help? Do you need me to reach out to the clients? And I try and get everything pipeline related done in the morning so I can spend the afternoon prospecting.
Perfect. You both have mentioned loan processor regularly. Cindy, can you give us a little short description on what does a loan processor do?
Okay, well, so once the loan is originated by the loan officer and everything is input in our system, so the loan officer basically, turns the file over to the processor, which, like Michael said, that's hard to do because, we're the ones who brought the loan in, but your loan processor, they're a huge, huge piece, and you have to have a great working relationship and trust with them. So they basically take the loan once you've handed it off. They deal with gathering all the documentation, checking things as they come in to make sure that what we think we have in the file is what is actually coming back verified, meaning their exact salary, their assets they have in the file, are there any discrepancies? And so they basically have to they're supposed to cure any questions, any change from the application, from what has been submitted before the file goes to underwriting. So they basically pretty it all up before it's submitted to underwriting and try to answer any questions that the underwriter is going to have, deal with, the appraisal issues, making sure the appraisal comes in fine. I watch all of that too. It's hard not to, because I want to make sure that the home appraises if there's any, issues going on with that. But basically, they should take ownership of that file because it is the loan officer's job to continue to prospect and originate and not get bogged down in the processing. So the processor is a huge piece of it with processing the file, submitting the file to underwriting. Once the file comes out of underwriting, they then, at least my processor does, sends the condition list to the borrower because there's always going to be conditions that the underwriter normally wants. And then they follow up with gathering those conditions and submitting back to the underwriter for the clear to close, and then submitting the file to closing once you have your clear to close. So it's definitely a process.
So I have a feeling that we have some of our students listening and watching and thinking, maybe I want to be a loan processor.
Yeah, it's a great job.
And that's how you started.
They could have been a
Yes,
loan
that's how I
processor and now they're wanting to get into origination, so they're getting their license.
Exactly.
And I would say, Rita, I didn't mean to jump in, but it is so important, in my opinion, for a loan officer to have that background as being a processor, because it just helps you so much when you're originating, because you know the guidelines, you know the background. So you're so much ahead of that loan officer who does not have that experience.
Exactly. It's giving you the foundation, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So we missed a day in the life of Cindy Smith. What are your hours like during the day?
Well, my hours pretty much never stop. And that's just true right now, especially with having your volume triple, which that's what's happened during the pandemic. So not only are we dealing with the change in guidelines daily, but triple volume and not triple staff. So we all have been working, round the clock. And thank goodness my processor works a ton of overtime, because that has been needed. And that's been, definitely saving us through this time. So basically hit the ground running in the morning, whatever. As soon as I roll out of bed, I look at my phone, and it, 6:30 in the morning, it could be 5:30 in the morning, whatever. And just, check my email and start my day, try to get as much of that cleared as possible. A lot of borrowers that don't want to lock in and they want to float. I spend my mornings updating them on interest rates because I want to make sure they know exactly what's going on in the market with rates. So I send out rates via either email or phone call, whatever they want. And then just follow up on making sure my timeline with my processor and underwriter is on target. I've had to do that through the pandemic. I want my files submitted at least 2 weeks prior to the CD going out, just to make sure we don't miss any closing dates. So, I mean, it's a lot of time management, especially lately for me. Just following up and, in the evening, I'm looking forward to my glass of wine and it's just
And relaxing a little bit.
yeah. But still, I am on my email and returning things 10 o'clock at night. I work Saturday and Sunday. I mean, that's just what has had to happen. That's just what the case is. And, it's not always that way, but it has been recently. And that is the life of a loan officer. To me, a loan officer's job is not going to be 8 to 5, 9 to 5. You've got your cell phone, whether you're traveling on a plane, on vacation. I'm laying in a pool in Cabo sometimes, and I am on my phone, and I may have to get up and go to my villa and, lock somebody or do something, but that's just what it is. But I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I knew you were going to end your sentence that way. You love it. You wouldn't have it any other way. And obviously, you're both entrepreneurs. That's how we started out. And whether you are a loan officer, real estate agent, inspector, you're an entrepreneur, appraiser, you're an entrepreneur, you're on your own. And I know that both of you work so many hours, so diligently, and yet I know each of you would say exactly what you just said. You wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love having grown with so much help, Champion School of Real Estate, but it's so much fun. It is just fun. And the hours you put in, you're able to see the outcome and kind of go, yay, and then thank all those that helped you as well. So that being said, is there a certain personality that you think maybe is more in line with being an entrepreneur or / let's go into more specifically, being an RMLO, which is the official name of a loan officer? Cindy, is there a certain personality that comes to mind?
Well, I mean, I think we see all types of personalities, but, what I would say is, you have to be positive. You have to be positive all the time. And, know that not every day is going to be a perfect day. I mean, you're going to run into challenges. You're going to have people that are upset at some of the things that we're needing them to do to obtain a mortgage loan. And, you just can't take that personally. You have to understand that. And that this is with real estate, I would think with anything, we're dealing with people, as Michael said, at, it's the biggest investment, buying a home, and they're going to be emotional during that time, whether, they're newly getting married or whether it's their, third or fourth home, because guidelines change all the time. And what somebody experienced 2 to 3 years ago may be different than what they experience now. So you kind of have to be a cheerleader through the process, to keep them positive and, make them understand that this is just required for everyone. And, so personality wise, I just think upbeat and, try to keep them going as much as possible and, just keep them moving forward. So
Power of positivity. Keep them going.
And just be able to take things with a grain of salt and realize it's not directed toward you. You are there to help them.
Because a lot of emotions go into the biggest decision of their life, purchasing a home. So, Michael, what tips would you give as well to people that want to be a loan officer going into the business? What are your tips for them?
Well, just to circle back on the last question, I think you just need to be coachable. You need to be likable. Here we call it the airport test. If we were stuck at the airport with you, would we like sitting next to you? I
love that.
And then the other piece of advice that Cindy kind of mentioned is, every hour of the day is different. You could get a clear to close. And then 10 minutes later, you could get an appraisal that comes in low. And so my advice to, if you really want to be a loan officer, you can't get too high on the highs and you can't get too low on the lows. And the more steady that you can be, then I think the more success and the longer you're going to be able to sustain in the business. So if you can not ride the waves up and down when you get good news, bad news, challenges, adversity, I think that's something that I pride myself on. I try and stay kind of even keel through the good news and the bad news. And then being able to communicate, if you do get some bad news or a challenge or, a speed bump, being able to communicate that effectively to your clients and kind of insulate them from, I guess, panic. Like, hey, this is not a big deal. This is why we need a new bank statement, because the other one's, 60 days old, or we're trying to source the deposit that you made to purchase the home so we can give you a credit. Being able to communicate that effectively to the client versus just sending an email saying I need a new bank statement, there's a big difference between that. And so I think that's the difference between a great loan officer and somebody that's kind of just going through the motions, is really taking the time to walk your clients through that process.
I
So that
love
would be
that.
my biggest tip to answer your question as well.
You're saying stay calm and explain why you need it, because they're scared to death. They want that house. And when you come back with, I need this, I need that, I love your advice on staying positive, stay calm, and give them the reasons why.
And always have a solution, right? Like when you have to call a realtor and have a tough conversation or talk to a borrower because the underwriter has rejected something or needs something additional, explain what they're needing and then have a solution. Here's what we're going to do. And if you can back that up with a game plan, it helps kind of bring everybody down when it takes a turn.
So we have mostly real estate agents and real estate people that are in the class that are expecting, and we know they will with our prep course, get their real estate license. And what advice would you tell them right now to carry with them once they're licensed, so that when they have their first buyer, the buyer is prepared to meet with either you, Cindy, or Michael? What great information, pieces of information can you give to our students on how to counsel their buyer? So Cindy, do you want to take that question?
Yes, I would love to take that question. I think, and a lot of my realtors do this, this is huge, to find a loan officer that you feel comfortable with and meet with them and get an understanding of the process of what their buyer is going to go through. It's so important if a realtor can, while they're showing homes, educate their buyer of what the process is going to be like and tell them, do whatever your loan officer is asking you to do. Don't ask questions, just do it. Because so many of them, when a borrower comes into us and they have zero idea of what's going to happen over the next 30 to 45 days, they can ask us, why do you need this? Why do you need that? What's going on? So if that realtor has already prepped them and said, they're going to ask you for a lot of things that you're not going to understand why, but you just have to trust your loan officer and understand they're on your team, because we are a team to get that loan through the process 100%. The buyer, the realtor, the listing, selling agent, everybody involved, the appraiser, the processor, the loan officer, we all want to get to that finish line as smoothly as possible. So it is so helpful when that realtor joins our team and helps coach that borrower through, rather than, calling and getting mad about why is that being asked for, because that does go on. And it really is such a smoother process when that real estate agent will say, they're on your team, just do what they're asking for. We're going to get there. We're going to get there.
That's great advice, because this is your expertise, and your expertise is to make sure that you get to funding with the loan. So to say, just listen to what your loan officer says, do what they say. Any additions to that, Michael?
Yeah, I agree with Cindy. I think that's great advice. I would say to agents, try and get them in touch with that loan officer as quickly in the process as you can. Number one, to to let the loan officer answer the mortgage related questions and the qualifying questions and the, can I do this? Should I move my money from my, savings into my checking? All those things that, borrowers just start doing leading up to buying a house. They pay off all their debt, right? Because they think that if they have no debt, it's better. It's best to get them in touch with the loan officer as early in the process as possible. And the other side of that for an agent is you want to make sure that you're investing your time with borrowers that are looking and able to buy right now and that they qualify, but also maybe they're 6 months out, 9 months out, 12 months out. If you're an agent, you want to know those things right away.
So Michael, I'm a buyer. I found the home that I love and I want to come and visit either you or Cindy, make loan application. I make loan application. What are some things I shouldn't do from the time I make loan application until we get to closing?
The do's and
Can I handle it,
don'ts.
Mike?
I always say just be boring, be real vanilla. Don't open new debt. Don't apply for new debt. If you go to, Nordstrom's, don't save 10% by opening up, a credit card, because anything you do is going to be, looked at now from an underwriter. So when I meet with a client, I'll go over those things. So, don't move money around. Don't quit your job. Don't, add debt. Don't go buy that new car. Like most people, if they get a promotion at work or they start making a little bit more income, they want to buy a house and they want to buy a new car. And so do it in that order, buy the new house first. And then if you're going to buy a new car, do it after the fact. When you go to buy a house, you want to show is the best chances to get qualified is show as much income as you can, as much assets as you can, and the least amount of debt moving forward. And that's going to give yourself the best chances to get approved.
Excellent information. I hope our students wrote all of that down. Cindy, can you tell us, all these years that you've been as well working with buyers and agents and such, what are some things prior to loan application that a buyer could do to make their credit look better, even maybe lift their credit score somewhat? Any tips on that prior?
Yeah, so when you're going into buying a home or thinking of it, it is best to try to pay down revolving credit. It's best to have at least a 60% equity position in your high credit limit and your unpaid balance. So that will help boost your credit score. So not only just paying everything perfect on time, but minimizing any type of revolving credit. The installment credit is just fine, but just try to get yourself as clean as possible to where it doesn't look like you're living off your credit. So, having whereas you have a high credit limit of say 10,000, pay that down to maybe, 2,000, 1,000, or pay it off. I mean, that obviously looks better to not have any revolving credit, but that's hard for people to do because everybody uses credit cards. But I would just say that, and then don't move money around. That's a huge thing because what that does is it just causes more documentation in the process to be required if you're moving funds around. So try to get everything stabilized, settled, and get your funds where they need to be. If you are cashing any stock in, you don't really have to do that until, during the process, because the underwriter will approve the loan subject to that. And then we tell you how to document it. The best thing, as like what Michael said, is get to the loan officer first, and they will tell you, or we will tell you, what you can do and what you need to do to make yourself look as best as possible prior to the file going to underwriting.
Excellent information. And I know there are a number of our real estate students as well as loan students that are thinking, maybe I might consider being a loan officer, or they have a friend or a loved one. So starting out in this new career, how did each of you get started? What did you do to get your name out there? Michael?
Well, it kind of happened by accident. I was looking for a job, and I had a buddy that interviewed at Quicken Loans, doing refinancing over the phone, and I called him out of the blue, and he hooked me up with an interview. And I didn't know what a refinance was. I had an idea what a mortgage was at that time, and so I interviewed, got the job, and they kind of just taught me everything I needed to know, mortgage 101. And so I entered in through the call center model. Consumer direct is what they call it. And I mean, we'd make 200-300 dials a day. So Rita, if you were in 2008, if you were eating dinner at like 6 p.m. and your phone rang and somebody was like, hey, I think I can lower your rate, save you some money. That was me.
Bless your heart. Wow.
Yep. We met years ago. You just didn't know it. So, so that's kind of how I started. I did that for 6 years, and then six years ago got into the retail model where you did need to build a brand. So when you're in that consumer direct call center environment, it's just transactions. You do the loan and you never talk to that client again. There's no relationship building. There's no referral partners. There's nothing. When you get into the retail model, which is more of probably what your students are going to do once they get licensed, then it's all about relationships. And so for me, when I started that out, because I had the time, that's what I did. I donated my time. I invested a lot into the local association. I was on the business after hours committee. I was on the technology committee, the tree pack committee. And I, for 2 years solid, just donated as much of my time planning events and, rubbing elbows and working side by side with realtors and not even asking for the business, just kind of, like I said, hopefully being likable and just being around them. And after time, then they started sending me business, for one reason or the other, because they saw me, invested in things that were important to them and hopefully just a little bit likable. But, and then you mentioned it, I was fortunate enough to be affiliate of the year, which was pretty cool. So I was, all that hard work kind of paid off. So I think that helped get my name out there in my local community.
You are definitely a likable guy, and definitely I can see why you are so successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy, as I said earlier, I've known you for such a long time. I'm going to say from observation that the things that we teach agents to do, loan officers to do to get new business, I've seen you do it. So most definitely, there are so many things that you've done that have allowed you to grow in your business and be the success that you are. But thinking back, what were some of the tips and activities that you did that you think really made you more visible and launched your career?
I am a people person. I love to get involved. As you know, I was very involved with many organizations, Women's Council of Realtors, but I enjoyed it. So, I mean, to like what Michael said, to get out there and get involved, to rub elbows with people, because what I found was I didn't really have to ask for the business. It's almost like you earn it by just going out there and participating and showing people what you can do on a different level versus what you can do as a loan officer. So people gain trust and respect for you by watching you, get involved with community events. I was very involved with the American Heart Association. I chaired the gala for, I want to say, 4 different years. That gave me great exposure. But again, just being involved with, I was on the panel for WCR. I chaired their casino night year after year, was, I think, on the board for so many years. But it just, it fit me and, what I wanted to do. So as I said, I never really had to ask for the business. It just started coming into me. But I did get out and market, and I would team up with several realtors to do different events with them, which it was fun. I mean, I never thought of it really as work. I love what I do. So I would just encourage, people to get involved. And you're not going to get business just by walking in and saying, hey, I'm a loan officer. Here, I have this rate. I have this product. That doesn't do it. The realtors want to deal with people that they want to do things outside of work with. At least that's what, how it worked for me.
I agree.
You both have said the same thing. I know that I would want to do business with Michael. I would want to do business with Cindy. And it's because you give back to the community. It's because people see you And just as you said, it's not like you're wearing a badge that says I'm here because I want your business, but because you're likable, you're genuine, you're credible, you follow through, then agents are going to refer you for sure. Of course, I'm going to put just a little plug in here in that we have a 3-hour course on how to market yourself as a mortgage loan officer. And then we have a 2-day course on essential mortgage skills. Both of these are not for credit, but they are to certainly enhance your career. So our students are looking at you right now, and they're looking at Michael's office, and they're thinking, please don't tell me that's an outline of a mortgage loan behind you.
That's the loan
Michael,
process. Yeah, there it is.
what is your drawing back there?
So my owner, he's a builder in construction, and so he decorated all the offices. And so, if any student can guess what this is, I'd be super impressed. But it's a blueprint of a trolley car.
Blueprint of a trolley car. We are so relieved it's not the mortgage loan process.
Yeah. And this guy I got at the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce, the Fort Worth.
Awesome. So, Cindy, I know we talked a little bit about you and your family somewhat. I'm assuming you're in your home office because I know
Yes, I am.
that with COVID, you've spent a lot of time in your home office and you have lots of pictures back there of your family and such. What might be for each of you, well, maybe Michael has something else in his background, but just to personalize who you are, is there something that the students may or may not know about you? What might your hobby be? What do you like to do for fun on the weekend? Something in that regard. Cindy, can you take it from there?
Well, I mean, I like to have fun, that's for sure. So we spend a lot of time at our house. I have a house in Galveston. We spend a lot of time, there and on the boat. I like to fish. I love vacationing, pre-COVID. And, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I love my family. I've been married 35 years. I've got a younger daughter. My youngest daughter's getting married. So we're in the throes of planning a wedding during COVID. So that's really been fun. So, but other than that, I mean, I just, I like to run. I like to work out, just.
I bring it up because people think, oh my gosh, they're so successful. Do they really have a life? And that life-work balance is so important. And I know that both of you have said you put in so many hours, and of course you have to. You're your own boss. You're your own company, and yet you find time. I see cute pictures on Facebook of you. You've caught these humongous redfish, and she really is a fisher woman. And yes, you can put in all the hours you need to put in. How many hours per week do you think maybe you put in, Cindy?
I mean, it just never, like I said, it doesn't stop. So there's not, and some people may not think that's good, but for me, it works. I mean, there's never a time when I am not on my phone or not, working. And so, I mean, if I go on my boat and get out of cell phone range, when we go offshore, that would do it. But, or if I'm on a plane and I can't, check my email, that'll do it. And sometimes I do like being on a plane where I'm like, okay, you got to shut it off for a few hours, but
Exactly.
it works for me, and obviously it works for Michael too. So I think the key is enjoying what you do, and I love what I do. And I want to go back just one step when you were asking about getting started. I didn't want to do business with everyone. I think you choose people that you have personalities with and things in common with, and then it becomes more unlike work. So you just work together and get things done. So it doesn't, it's not like you're that's what I would encourage most. If they're starting out, don't think you want to go out and deal with everybody, because that's not going to work. You deal with people who have similar personalities that you can work with, and then it doesn't feel like work.
Good information. And it makes you want to get up in the morning and go after it.
Yeah.
And Michael, I know you and Betsy like to travel. So in addition to being president of Merit Mortgage and very busy. What do you like to do for your life, business, personal balance?
Well, that was my answer, was travel.
Oh, sorry.
But I mean, yeah, we love to get away and you know, go experience new things and travel, and so that's number one. But during the week, I mean, I play grown men's softball on Tuesday nights. Although it seems to only rain on Tuesdays here, so we get rained out a bunch. But yeah, I mean, we love pool days. I'm originally from California, so anything by the water, I'm usually in. So lake, pool, and then obviously we can get away to the ocean. I love the ocean as well.
Perfect. So I just wanted to personalize both of you somewhat and let everyone know, yes, you can work many hours. Yes, you can be successful, but yes, you can also have a personal life as well. So I'm going to turn the discussion around a little bit to technology. In this day and time with social media and technology, with each of you, what technologies do you think have really enhanced your business and or helped you to promote yourself more so than in the past? Cindy, is there something you can share with us?
Well, you know, I love technology, and I will tell you because I have been doing this for so long, I kind of fought technology for a while because I was so used to the way things used to be. And I'm telling you, with the that I can bring my laptop anywhere I go. I mean, I do travel a lot, and I take my laptop. I can work from anywhere. I love that. I like the social media with Facebook. I, promote a lot of my reviews on Facebook. I just think that's really helped where we have so much more exposure without doing the normal mail outs and things like that we used to do. So technology has been a great thing for me as far as sharing on social media. I know my daughter, Morgan, she does Instagram, Twitter, all of that. I don't really do Twitter, but she promotes a lot on Twitter and Instagram and has really used that platform. So I think it's excellent.
Michael, what about yourself with technology tools?
So as an LO, I think it's important to have an online application that you can send to clients, that realtors can send out on your behalf. Ours is co-branded, so when the realtor forwards it to a client, it's got their headshot and my headshot, all our information together. So I feel like that's not every mortgage company has access to that kind of thing. So if you're an LO and you're going to look at potential employers, make sure you're asking questions about the technology that makes your life easy as an originator. Along the same vein, being able to send out an updated pre-qualification letter from your phone. So Cindy mentioned you can be traveling, we could be working anywhere, we could be pulled over in our car and we have our laptop, but being able to do something from your phone is obviously a lot easier. So having an interface that is mobile as well as on the laptop is super helpful because, especially in a market like this, when it's first offer in is usually the one that, gets accepted, and you have a pre-qualification letter at, 400,000 and they're going to offer 325. I like to bring my pre-qualification letter down to the offer. And so for me to be able to just do it on my phone real quick and send it to the agent and then ask me for something and get it done within a few minutes, I think it's super valuable to me as an originator.
So right now with COVID and so many people that have been at home looking around, deciding that they might want a larger home, smaller home, a home out in the suburbs, more land, that kind of thing. What would you say, Michael, is your market condition right now? Would you say it's better than it was in January, February, worse? Would you say it's better than last year? What is your particular status of our market right now in the Fort Worth area?
Yeah, it feels like we don't have enough homes. It feels like there are a lot of people that were sheltered in place that, decided they needed a bigger house, a better kitchen, a pool, all those sorts of things, and got people out there looking to buy. And there's just not a lot of inventory right now. And so we are kind of like last year, we're seeing a lot of multiple offers, and especially at the not the lower price points, but the 200 to 300 range versus the 300, the 400, the $500,000 loans. I mean, those are all multiple offer situations. And so you see agents trying to get creative on their offers and have the buyer pay the title policy, or putting in appraisal addendums and just things that, sending letters, personal notes, highlighting. I've seen some agents that there's some technology for agents where they can like shoot a video that, runs through the offer and highlights all the exciting parts of why their offer is different, just trying to stand out so they can get their offer accepted. So the market's hot for purchase. And then of course you've got, refinance been going on in the background that has all the lenders busy in general anyways.
We are so fortunate right now to be where we are, first of all, in Texas, and then to be able to do loans and buy homes that no other states are really seeing happen right now as much. And it has allowed so many people to really consider maybe it's time to change careers and be their own boss. Cindy, how do you see the market right now in the Houston area?
The market is so hot right now. I mean, it is exactly like what Michael said. I mean, that price point that he said, the 250 to 300. I mean, those homes fly off the market, and the agents are getting very creative with how they write their offer. It's very important to have a solid pre-approval. We try to even, process the entire file so we can have a completely underwritten file, which helps the borrower, stand out as a totally approved buyer, just not pre-qualified. We see a lot of borrowers now wanting a second home. As you know, I have the home in Galveston. Nothing stays on the market there. I think due to COVID, a lot of people have realized maybe travel is not going to be what it has been previously. So we've seen a lot of people buying second homes because they feel like, I'm done with traveling. I'm just going to have a second home, and that's going to be my vacation for the next few years. So the market's super hot. It's very fortunate to be in Texas, and so many people are relocating to Texas. A lot of people from California, they want to get to the Texas state. So we are in a great place right now.
And the refinance market is really hot.
Outstanding.
As well.
Yes.
So most definitely, once we got through March and a little bit of April, we sort of steadied ourselves. Those that are in real estate related fields have really managed to have, I just want to say, a blessing to our careers, because it has been so much better than it could be otherwise. So
if you think back to March and April, I mean, who would have thought that the year was going to finish out like this? So
no way. Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
Not me. It has been such a surprise, such a wonderful, pleasant surprise. So as we are coming down, believe it or not, to the end of our 50 minutes, which always makes me so sad because I love talking to our guests, our friends, and you all have so much to offer. I do want to remind our students that this interview will be available tomorrow on YouTube. So please review it again and have your writing tools out to take down these wonderful tips from Cindy and Michael. But as we end, I always like to ask the question, looking back now, what advice would you give your younger self about something that might have helped you at the beginning of your career that you've now learned from your experience? Cindy?
I mean, for me, as I said, it was just the confidence in knowing what I was doing. I had the background as the loan processor, which gave me the confidence. So I would encourage everyone to try to get that knowledge and experience. I always had great communication with my customers. With email, I think a lot of people tend to hide behind email. I prefer a phone conversation, especially if I'm having to ask for something that was unexpected. I just think it comes across better if you pick up the phone and call the borrower, call the realtor. Don't be afraid, even if it's bad news, deliver it with options or a solution. I think that is what has helped me throughout my whole career, because I've seen the opposite. I've had loan officers that have worked with me that are scared. They don't want to go face the lion, but you have to. And, go with the team approach that I am on your team. We're going to have a solution to this. We're going to get there. So again, it's just, being bold and having the confidence to know you're working for them. I always had a motto, and it is my customer's number one, my company's number two, and I am number three. And in that order, if I do business that way, I'm always going to be taken care of, because your customer will, they buy the fact that you're working for them. And so that has been a great part of my success.
Wow, that is very memorable. And not hiding behind emails says volumes. Pick up the phone, make it a personalized call. And we know why you're so successful. Great advice. Michael, what about advice to your younger self?
So I guess I would say that I wish I would have learned more about the different models when it comes to origination. So I mentioned briefly that I worked in a call center or the consumer direct. I've also worked in retail, where I've worked for a big bank. I've also worked for a big lender, and now I'm in wholesale. And I wish I would have, you don't know what you don't know. So when I was at the call center, it was the best thing and I loved it and everything was great. And then we heard of people that were transitioning into going to work at a bank branch and we're getting paid, X amount. And I was like, man, that sounds awesome. And let's go take a look at retail. And then you spend some time in retail. And then it's like, yeah, but if you go work for like an actual lender, then you can, potentially make this commission and you can do this. And so I didn't know until I started hearing it, and it took years to learn what maybe the next step would be. And then the next step after that. And there's pros and cons to each step of the way, right? When you go work for a big company, they provide you with a lot, and 401k and health insurance benefits, and sometimes leads, and even connections with real estate agents. And so because you get all that support, then and you're working on volume, then you can potentially make less on the commission side of things. Whereas if you, on the opposite side, on retail, if you're going out and hunting and bringing in your own business, then you get paid accordingly. So I wish back, 12 years ago, I would have known what all those different models were and what they looked like. And just not that I would have changed anything, because I feel like that made me into the originator, into, the mortgage professional I am, because I've had a taste of all those different sides along the way. But I wish I would have known, so I could say, okay, I want to stick with this, or maybe I'm going to go out and go this direction earlier, versus, all of a sudden you're 10 years in the business and you get to that, that spot. So I think just more information, being younger and being hungry to know more about originations in the industry in general. I think I would go back and change that. But again, I wouldn't change each step along the way, because
It got you to where you are today.
Yeah, it's been, yeah, exactly. Been a good foundation.
You both have been just so enjoyable, credible. You're so experienced. I know our students have really enjoyed all of your words of wisdom. I know I have. I know that both of you are such kind people, and you care about your customers, you care about your business. I thank you from the bottom of my heart that you are here today and gave us your time in order to give your information that both our loan officers and our real estate and our appraisers and our inspectors need to know. And that being said, please, students, go online, look at our online catalog. With COVID and our shutdown, our classes are online, and as well as live broadcast, but the schedule is in our online catalog. We do have our face-to-face traditional classrooms open, but all of our classes are available with live broadcast. I'm personally so thankful for Zoom, because it's allowed us to totally stay in business during this time period. I want to bring your attention, our next interview with superstars will be those that are fairly new in the business, and that will be October the 22nd. The title is Brand New and Ready to Make Money, We have also from Fort Worth, Will Wright will be our agent that I'll be interviewing. And then from the Dallas area, Nicole Piccola. Nicole is with Compass Realty, and Will Wright is with Endwell Real Estate Brokerage. So that's October the 22nd, and we will have those two fairly new superstars in the business that I get to interview. So thank you, Cindy Smith, branch manager, Hometrust Mortgage, and thank you, Michael Foley, president, Merit Mortgage. I also want to say to each of you, hello, Betsy Foley, and hello, Robert Smith. And it is my pleasure to know both of your families, and we wish you continued success. My big thanks again to our students. Without your business, we don't have one, and we so appreciate your choosing to be a champion. So I will see you October 22nd.